What's up guys and welcome back. Today in this video we're going to be discussing some of the games that I want to see at E3 this year, more specifically horror games. Now originally I did plan to do some prediction videos for each of the different conferences and the companies at E3 this year, but I decided I just want to talk about the games that I hope are announced, and knowing me, most of them are horror games, so I thought I'd just do a video on some of the horror games that I want to be announced, whether it be a sequel or a reboot or just a whole new franchise entirely. So first up, I would love to see a new Resident Evil game. I'm a big fan of the whole franchise really, but I really did enjoy Resident Evil 7. I love the way they took it back to the survival horror roots. It's been over a year now, so I'm hoping we get to see some information on the new one, whether it be Resident Evil 8 or even if it's just a Revelations 3 or some more information on Resident Evil 2, the remake. I'd really love to see a trailer for that because that has been in development for so long, we haven't seen a single thing. So I think it's about time we get to see something from Resident Evil in any way, shape or form. Dead Space is a game that we've not seen in such a long time. I'm not sure when Dead Space 3 came out, but I think it's due time we got another one of those. I know that the company that made those games actually shut down, so the likelihood of that happening is pretty slim. Dead Space 3 was a lot more action orientated than the first two, and my favourite one is probably still the first one, so I think it'd be great if another company or someone just made a reboot with maybe a different character or just a completely different setting. But I think there's a lot more to be done with Dead Space, especially on these next generation of consoles with the graphic power and what we can do now. So I think a Dead Space reboot after it's been so many years would be perfect to be announced at E3. I'd actually really enjoy it if they did like a remaster of the trilogy as well and put it on next gen for the people who never got a chance to play the original three. Next up, Alien Isolation. That game needs a sequel. Alien Isolation is probably the perfect example of an adaptation of a horror product, especially Alien. There's been a lot of Alien and Predator games over the years, but I think the perfect one was Alien Isolation. It just captured the essence of the first movie and the fear of the alien, and I think that game was just so good and it needs a sequel. I don't know how they would do a sequel. They could make it set on LV-426 during Aliens or before Aliens with the colony. Another idea that came to me not long ago was maybe if they had it set after Prometheus, where the alien is left on the planet, the Deacon, and that could just run havoc and make hives and stuff, and then we'd get to see people going to the planet from Prometheus and see maybe what this alien, this creature has actually got up to on that planet with what he's made, with all the engineer bodies on the ships and stuff. That could be a really cool idea for an alien game that no one would expect, and it'd be different from just your generic alien on a ship story. So Alien Isolation definitely needs a sequel. I really hope we get to see one of them anytime soon. One of my favourite exclusives on the PlayStation this year was definitely Until Dawn. I'm a huge horror fan. I love slasher movies, and this was like the closest you're ever going to get to a horror movie in video game format. It was basically a slasher story where anyone can die, anyone can live, you make the choices. So it's hugely replayable, and I just loved every second of that game. I haven't had a chance to play the VR games, the Rush of Blood and the Inpatient, so hopefully one day I get to play them. But Until Dawn needs a sequel. It could be totally unrelated to the story of the first one. I think I'd actually enjoy it more if it was his own separate story. Seeing as the first one was set in like the mountains, the snowy mountains, they could do a completely different story and location this time, possibly like set in like a castle in Europe or something, or maybe in like a little rundown creepy village in China somewhere or something along those lines. They could do a lot with it. It even could be a summer camp like Friday the 13th, but I just love that game and how it felt just like a horror movie, and all of the different options and story choices you can make in the game. I would love to see an Until Dawn sequel. Even though Sony is packed full of exclusives for the rest of this year, just a teaser would be just enough for me. Now this one is a franchise that has been dead for quite some time now, but I really enjoyed both of the games in this franchise, and that is Condemned. Originally Condemned came out on the PC and the Xbox 360. It was actually one of the Xbox 360's launch titles, and it was heavily influenced by the movie Seven, which is an amazing movie. And it was just like a first person horror game where you actually had to like fight off like crackheads and these just evil people with melee weapons for the most part. There was weapons in the game, but it was just super creepy, and the vibe of the serial killer and the Seven vibe in it was just perfect. The second game was still a lot of fun. It has some really cool like atmosphere in like the levels with the lodges and the bear and stuff like that. I really love that type of thing, but it kind of went more science fiction. So I think a new Condemned game would definitely be a surprise to a lot of people, and I think it'd be a pleasant surprise. I'm not sure if the studio who made the game is still going. I think I read something about the guy who still has the rights to the game, and he would love to have someone take it, like an indie developer, and make the sequel to it, but who knows if it'll ever get done. But I would be really surprised if they did a Condemned 3 or just a new Condemned game at E3 this year. Doom 2. Now, I've played bits of Doom 2016. I'm waiting till I upgrade my PC so I can get the full experience of playing Doom. But what I played, I loved. They took it in such a great direction with it being so fun and fast-paced and brutal. It's been out since 2016 now, so I think the game did really well, so I think a sequel is definitely in the works. They kind of hinted at it in one of the interviews not too long ago, where they said something about the Bethesda's conference, something about Hell on Earth, which if you played the old games on the PC, Hell on Earth was actually Doom 2, because it was set on Earth after the demon apocalypse. So are we going to get a Doom sequel set on Earth? I would absolutely love that. It would be a crime if they didn't make a Doom 2 with how well it's sold and just how fun it is. It's even on the Switch now. It's on a lot of different platforms now, so it's highly accessible, and I think it's a perfect game that is due a sequel, and that game looks stunning, so I can't wait to see what they will do in a sequel, especially if it's set on Earth. Now, this one is a tough one. I would love to see this series brought back. I've actually only played one game in the series, but this is Siren. The only one I played was Siren Blood Curse on the PlayStation 3, but I really enjoyed this game. The atmosphere was just incredible. It was like a Japanese horror. Japanese horror games are usually just vast in atmosphere, and they're normally a lot creepier than the games we do get that are produced over here. So I think the market is missing a lot of Japanese horror these days, and I think Siren would be a really good franchise to bring back, because we're just missing Japanese horror, and I think it was a PlayStation exclusive, so I think PlayStation would add just another card into their hand of amazing first party exclusives, and I think Siren would be something that they are missing from their exclusive sort of games. They have Until Dawn, but I think they need some more horror games in their own studio, so I think a Siren game would be awesome, especially on the current gen of consoles with the power they have now compared to the PlayStation 3. I've got to say that Bloodborne is probably in my top 3 games of all time now. If not, it's definitely my top 5. Love that game, love the Soulsborne games. Needs a sequel, and if what we saw back at PlayStation Experience with the Shadows Die Twice trailer, I'm hoping it's Bloodborne 2. A lot of people have been speculating that it's Tenchu, but I want Bloodborne 2, and it's inevitable. It's got to happen. It's such a big game. It's one of PlayStation's most highly rated games. Everyone loves the Soul series these days, so it needs a sequel. I'm not sure if it's going to be a completely different story or location, because the story was quite neatly wrapped up in the first Bloodborne, but I think they'd be stupid if they didn't do another Bloodborne, and I would lose my shit if that got announced at E3 this year. Okay, last on the list of the games I have here for the ones that I want to be announced at E3 is something that is one of my favourite games of the last generation, and it definitely deserves a sequel. It's been such a long time coming now, and it's Alan Wake. Alan Wake is a supernatural horror game. I wouldn't say it was straight up horror, but it's definitely in that vein. It feels like a Stephen King book mixed with Twin Peaks, and I just loved every second of that game. And it's made by Remedy, who is supposed to be announcing something new this year, so it's either going to be Quantum Break or Alan Wake, or maybe a new Max Payne, but I would love it to be Alan Wake, because I really did enjoy that game, and I'm just missing that type of game with like the supernatural thriller aspects and the Stephen King. I'm really into Stephen King at the moment, so I think we definitely need to see Alan Wake 2. I think we might stand a chance of seeing it this year actually, and what else to revive the Xbox exclusives with a sequel to Alan Wake, one of its more cult classic games on the 360 that a lot of people really enjoyed. It didn't really become like a mainstream hit, but it definitely had a big following, so I think Alan Wake would get a lot of people excited to getting back on the Xbox and picking the console back up, or if they haven't had one yet, it'd definitely be a good reason for someone to pick up an Xbox. This is literally just like a handful of the ones that I want to see this year, or just see in general. I did have a list of tons of other games and other ideas for games that maybe could go for another different video at some point, but these are the main focus ones that I would love to see this year at E3 or in the next year or two. I would love to see all of these games. Let me know if you enjoyed any of the ones I've listed. Let me know what you would like to see. So let me know in the comment section if there's any games that I've missed out here that you would love to be brought. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I guess I'll see you in the next one.